if they get upset now. Well, I don't think we've heard the end of that yet. I just-
Good afternoon. The Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust meeting for August 13th will be in order. And the first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the July 16th meeting.
Move approval. Second.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes. Are there questions or comments? Hearing none, voting please. Minutes are approved. The next item is the consent docket. And there's
Move approval subject to individual consideration.
lots of items. Have a motion to approve subject to individual consideration. Have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Are there items to be considered separately or that anyone has questions about? Hearing none, voting please. Consent docket approved. Next item is a concurrence docket. Just two items on the concurrence docket.
Move the concurrence docket.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the concurrence docket. Are there questions or explanations, anything about the concurrence docket? Hearing none, voting please. Concurrence docket's approved. Next item, items for individual consideration. The first item, item A, is a resolution approving a change with regard to execution of a note, I guess.
Mr. Chairman, Deutsche Bank sold its municipal bond trustee business to U.S. Bank. After review of our bond counsel and general counsel, we're recommending that you approve an agreement to allow Deutsche Bank to resign and appoint and accept U.S. Bank National Association.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve for the resolution. Are there questions, comments? Hearing none, voting please. Resolution approved. Next item is an item for executive session, and Councilman Ryan and I participated in the executive session on this morning, and I think the managers agreed to talk to Trustee Graves about it, and so given that, I think the easiest thing to do would be to strike it.
We can do that offline.
We have a motion to strike.
Move to strike.
Second.
A motion and a second to strike. Voting, please. Stricken. Items from trustees.
Just an update on lake levels.
Thanks for asking. The rain, for those of us who are following it obsessively, looking at how it falls into lakes, has hit, of course, very well in the inner city. Lakes Oberholzer and Hefner are full to the max.
Okay.
We're very excited about that this time of year. That's very rare. Lake Canton is up about a foot, which means it's down about 12.5 feet still today. Pleased with its overall
What's that
progress.
percentage of capacity?
About 30 total in the bottom,
Right.
including the bottom pool. About what's available to us is about 13,000 acre feet that we can pull and get here.
But the total capacity that's in the lakes in the 35% range or something like that.
That's right, in terms of, because I know the last report we saw, it had risen some because there had been rains, and you thought there might be more rains in the northwest, and I just didn't know how much they were able to capture.
Yes, the rain's just been gradually coming up. It's up about 1.25 feet over the last 10, 20, 14 days probably. More rain continuing to fall. Gosh, we're hopeful. The rain has just recently, thank you, it's just recently hit lakes Atoka and McGee Creek. Atoka's down about 2.5 feet from full. Also a very good position for this time of year. So we're expecting those lakes to end the this series of storms full to overflowing also. So feeling very good about our overall positions at the lake. Like Draper is about 6 feet low, is all at this point from what we would consider the normal elevation of 87.
Thank you.
So,
But as you can see by that graph, with the rains we've had today, the rains that we had, the heavy rains we had over the weekend and such, it's gone up just a few tenths of a foot.
Well, yeah, and it's just interesting because I know we've had so much rain and trying to sort of gauge how fast they recharge from that, and that's helpful to know.
There was also, Marcia sent me this morning, she and I both obsess on this quite a bit, and she sent me a Mesonet map this morning of last night's rainfall across the state, and Atoka and McGee Creek got fractions of an inch.
Sure.
And in the North Canadian Basin, which looked last night like it was going to be getting some, only got fractions of an inch.
Really?
And it really went off to further to the east of there.
Central
and, you know, in some parts of Oklahoma City had over 2 inches of rain last night, but it didn't fall that way in those two important basins.
Okay.
So it's just...
And all the time I've lived out close to Draper and watched it, this is the first time I can ever remember rainfall obviously affecting the lake. We have had a couple of rains that are so big that just were concentrated right there that you could actually tell the difference from one day to the next that the water had gone up.
Which is amazing because there's virtually no runoff in Draper. So,
other than the shoreline.
Yeah.
But,
Well, this is clearly going to be a historic year in terms of rainfalls when it's all said and done. The question is, is it top 5, top 10?
Following 2 or 3 historic years of drought.
Well, that's the interesting part of that, right? If we look at it over time, we can see the averages, and we just have to remind people that it comes and goes.
you know, from the science side, it helps us benchmark what's going on. As we went into the drought, we were told, well, you know, the last 30 years have been wetter than normal, and of course our response was, no, actually, I don't think we did realize that.
Yeah.
So, again, it helps us benchmark the 2 ranges for long-term forecasting.
It was a great year to start a water conservation plan.
Nice segue into the next item.
It is a good year, though. It is. I understand what you're, but you know, you have to convince people to change their way of doing it. So it's good. It's not bad that the lakes are full, and we're still insisting that we do it. So,
Marcia, have you had a lot of calls from citizens about the conservation plan and the lakes being full?
Yes. Yes. Well, and we have historically, of course, tied our conservation efforts to extreme problems with system capacity and looked at very low lake levels. So, and as the adopted program grows more restrictive with declining lake levels as well. So it's been hard. We know from past experience, Brett implemented the water conservation program in Wichita. I was involved with some of the mechanics of one in Austin too long ago to remember. And we know that those take a long time.
Right.
I can't tell you whether a really rainy summer was, I think it's a relief for everybody.
Right.
Plus or minus on the conservation program, it gives us more time to get out messages, to help reinforce good practices, get training out there for folks.
I know we've discussed looking at alternative rate structures, and that's, I really think, is something we need to look as part of a longer-term plan, because you're not going to change behavior until I think you start giving people kind of dollar reasons to think through what they do.
We were uncomfortable with the data that we had to create a good inclining block program for you this summer, and frankly just got lucky that it rained. And what we have done in the meantime is add the inclining block process to your cost of service study that will be complete this winter, so we can look at it.
Well, I think it's definitely something we need to consider sooner rather than later. At least have a discussion as to what the options are, what may or may not work, and then kind of what we may be comfortable with in terms of being consistent with our conservation awareness policies and concerns.
And it doesn't take anything for citizens to comply with it.
No.
They pay the water bill they bought into the program. It's not like buying a separate control system so it can water odd and even days or whatever the pattern happens to be.
Or putting up a sign that they can put in their yard that says, "This lawn is watered with well water. Please don't call the city again." And I've seen a few of those pop up around.
yeah. Okay. Well, then, is there any other comments from trustees? If not, we'll move on to the report on the program. If you have other comments to make.
So just a couple of things. We've created a variance program You can go to our website, squeezeoverdrop.com, and or go to the city's website and click into the conservation program, get to the variance location so that you can file an application. We've only received a few, but we're expecting more. We have met with the operators of the city's golf courses to describe the variance process to them, and I believe with the Parks Department they'll be following up on those. As an example, we've created a program that encourages you to save water and tells us how would it work best for you if you do that. What we want to see in a variance is how is this going to be different than what meet the goal of the conservation program. How is this going to be different than what you're doing before? We're making OSU's extension service, the Master Gardeners, available online as experts. If you have questions about grass, another interesting thing on the web page is a watering calculator. You can go into a product that comes from the agronomists and the weather experts in the Mesonet, and calculate how much water your grass needs depending on the type of grass you have, and how long it will take to water based on the kinds of sprinklers you're using. I found that very helpful as a known water waster, and it's hoping that will be helpful for others. But again, variance program in place. We're not at the stage where we're offering a lot of one-on-one assistance. We're trying to figure out what's required to do this both adequately for customers and then what enhancements what folks might be looking for. We're still in the feeling that out stage.
Well, I think the educational program would be two-pronged. One is doing exactly what you're saying, how to comply with the water shortage, and then why are we doing this? I think that why is a part that's escaped several of our people, particularly when the lake's full and overflowing. They don't understand that they expect us to take a 20-year viewpoint with a 2-year plan, 2-year time horizon. Anyway, it's an interesting conflict.
Do you offhand know how many citations we've issued this summer?
Under 600.
Under 600. And what part of the city have they been issued in? Do we know? Are they all over, or?
We targeted areas with the highest
Per capita
summer use.
Okay.
Yes. If it was the more remarkable the increase
Right. Okay.
summer versus winter, we were likely to go there first. Again, looking at potential maximum
Sure.
return on investment.
Okay. Thank you.
I've considered talking to the municipal judges as an alternative sentencing thing, maybe to have them chair a meeting on water conservation at Canton Lake, maybe if they get a ticket. You get a ticket for using too much water. I appreciate one thing in this report on the variances, that the idea that if someone asks for variances, we have an expectation that they'll reduce overall reduction in water use. It's not just come in and get a variance and keep doing what you're doing, but it's going to couple with conservation within the variance. So,
Well, I think that we're not trying to be punitive to people that are trying to establish yards and some things like that. We're trying to, we don't want to be unreasonable either, because that's just going to snowball on us. We give a little bit, it probably isn't going to have much of an effect of the overall usage, but we'll look a lot more reasonable as we go on down the line.
Well, change is always hard. Yeah. And the point is, I think as long as we have a plan and we're consistent in implementing it over time, then it will become the norm. But getting it started, it'll be rocky, perhaps, at times.
We actually, of course, between the billing system and other things, we tell customers what to do in a lot of ways. We really don't like to. So
Right.
it's been a tough internal thing as well.
Sure.
any other matters to come before the trust? Hearing none, we're adjourned. Thank you.